So, here's the fun stuff about bloodborne pathogens. So, what are bloodborne pathogens? Excuse me? And other bodily fluids. What did you say it was? Functions. Well, not necessarily, but fluids, yes. All right. Two biggies are hepatitis, especially hepatitis B, HIV. And HIV is not what kills you. It's when HIV develops into AIDS. All right. So you it changes your DNA to where it cannot take care of itself. So then the things that have normally not been seen, uh, certain cancers, certain skin cancers, certain pneumonias, which are easily fought off by a healthy immune system, are not fought off, and then you end up dead. All right. So if you got a hepatitis B, now remember hep, talking about the huh? Yeah, the old liver. So you're going to need to know the symptoms. These symptoms look like a great listing question, such as, yeah, it's a flu-like symptom. You'll end up fatigue, weakness, nauseousness, abdominal pain, headache, fever, and jaundice. So what is jaundice? Yeah, or your eyes start to get yellow, your skin starts to get yellow. It's because your liver's not doing his job. So you have all these toxins, and it makes you turn yellow. Now, that is a key indicator of hepatitis, jaundice. You see jaundice, you should think liver, okay? Because many of those symptoms are the same symptoms when we get into HIV. They're not all the same, but there's many of them that are. So it is possible that the virus can go undetected because an infected individual will not show any signs. The disease can be transmitted to others through exposure of blood or bodily fluids or intimate contact. Okay? So, hepatitis B can survive for at least 1 week in dried blood. So, somebody comes in our environment, and we see kids come in all the time that have cuts. Um, do we know they're hepatitis B? No, we don't know. We can't even ask. That's protected medical information. Hopefully, they'll tell us and put it on their medical history. But here's the thing that you'll find out about people: they don't like to be stigmatized. And since people don't like to be stigmatized and think, oh man, that person really is going to judge me, they very well may not write down that they have HBV, because then that person is going, every time I go in the training room, one of the trainers is going to look at me and say, ooh, I got dirty blood. Well, that's not what's going to happen, but they very well may not tell you. So if that's on, they come in the training room and they have a little drop of blood right here, and I mean the smallest of drops of blood, and somebody walks by, touches it, doesn't think about it, scratches their lips, very well could be transmitted. So that's why it's important that we use those wipes and wipe down these surfaces. So it can be transmitted through contact with these surfaces. There is a vaccination for hepatitis B. When I took it, there were 3 shots. You got a shot. Can't remember, it was in the arm or the hip. Then a month later, you went and got another shot. And then 6 months later, you got a third shot. It was a series. Then in another month or 2, you had to go back and get blood work and have them do some testing to make sure that the vaccination was working. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the state of Texas requires you to have a hepatitis B vaccination as part of your regular vaccination profile. The mumps, have any of you ever had the mumps? See, if you would have known, if you'd have had the mumps, you would have known. How about the measles? Anybody of you ever had chicken pox? See, I don't know if there's a virus, if there's a vaccination for chicken pox. We don't see measles. We don't see smallpox. We don't see the mumps as we used to because now it's MMR, I believe it is, mumps, measles, rubella, and your immunization card has it on there. And you get these when you're little bitty kids. Why tempt fate and not get the vaccination? Some people, for religious reasons, believe that they don't need to do it. I would get vaccination. HIV, the retrovirus that enters the host cell and then changes its RNA to a proviral DNA replica. So it goes in your cell and it says, okay, let's change how this thing works. And that's how it replicates itself throughout the body. All right, these are older numbers. They're not numbers that are current right now, but at that time, I think this was 2000. This might be even newer than that. Might be 2010. 1.2 million people are living with HIV in the United States. Okay, that's those people who have been tested. I mean, I've been tested for HIV. I had to make sure when I bought life insurance, they'll test you for HIV. Are they going to put life insurance on somebody who's HIV positive? Probably not, because your lifespan is not going to be long enough, possibly, be long enough for the insurance actuaries to say, you've paid enough into the plan to help cover the cost of everybody else who's in this plan. So 14,000 people infected with HIV die each year in the United States. I'm going to bet that's a higher number now. Might be. How do you come up with that number? Well, what about, but here at the same time, the drugs are better. So, Michael, not Michael, it's, what's that guy? Magic Johnson, played basketball for the Lakers. You all ever hear of him? Called him Magic. He owns movie theaters. Which ones does he own? He doesn't own Cinemark because Mark Cuban owns Cinemark. He owns like Tinseltown or something. So, he actually retired from the NBA because he found out that he was infected with HIV. He's still alive today. It's been 20 years since he retired or got infected. They were still wearing shorts way up to here. All right? I know. They look silly. They're not as silly as those shorts that they're wearing out. So the medications that are here, I mean, you would not believe when HIV was first out what people would do to try and save their lives. They would try and take all of the absolute most amount of blood that they could take out of their bodies and have clean blood put in. But it won't work. No. They tried to take their blood out, heat it up, like to cook it off, and then put blood back in. And it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's like if you got a swimming pool and half of it has got gasoline in it or oil, right? You keep dragging it out and running through the filter, but you'll never catch up. And so, and then if it's like the HIV, where it goes into a new host cell and a new host cell and a new host cell, every time you put a new cell in there, it wants to replicate itself. Not, and we'll get into that, but absolutely yes, you can still play sports. They can't be discriminated against. All right. So apparently, it says here that there's 50,000 Americans who become newly infected each year. Now, I'm sure that these are guesstimates, and that they can't actually tell unless everybody gets tested, and we have an idea. All right. Gay and bisexual men of all races are the most severely affected by HIV. Okay? Has nothing to do with them being gay. Well, actually, yeah, it does. It's just that, huh? Their relationship causes more tearing within the body. Okay? So, okay, 1 million people living with HIV in the U.S., 1 in 8 is living with HIV are unaware of their infection. I told you I worked at that little town up there in northeast Texas. In a smaller town, there were 6 people out of 60 in the graduating class that had HIV. 10%. All right? So this says here that there's 1 in 8 living with HIV who are unaware of their infection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 of us here. So I'm not saying by any means that one of us 11 has HIV, right? But odds are one of us does. All right? So how many people are in your senior class or in your class, in the sophomore class? About 400 people, right? So you're looking at 400 people, at least 40, that's 10%, and that's 1 in 8, so it's more than that, say 50. So there's 50 people in your class that's possibly could say 1 in 8 out of 2,000. What's 1 over 8? You got your calculator there? 1 over 8. Huh? Think? I want to see it. So if you got 0.125, take 2,000 times 0.125. That's 250 people in our school, not including teachers. So you walk across and you say, "Hey, he's cute." Is he? I don't think sharing makeup is going to do it. Well, got to be a bodily fluid. And when we're talking bodily fluid, it's not going to be spit. Okay? If you can get it, HIV, if you were to consume approximately 1 gallon of spit. Now that is a long time grubbing session. That's like 3 weeks. All right? So hopefully this will scare people into abstinence. All right? Every 9.5 minutes, someone in the U.S. is infected with HIV. 50,000 Americans a year. So why is this important for us? Look at these numbers. All right? They're not just talking about it's Americans, not American adults. So we work with Americans because we're in America. So about 1 in 4 new HIV infections is among youth ages 13 to 24. So that means 1 in 4. So every 40 minutes, it's somebody from the age of 13 to 24. Most of them do not know they are infected, or so they're not getting treated. And because they don't know, they're passing it along. Okay? Passing it along from one to the other. That's the thing about ignorance. The word ignorance being not knowing. If you're ignorant to what you're a host to, you're ignorant as to what you're passing through. What? If you have it, don't you have to? Well, I will tell you this. There was a guy in Dallas. There was a guy that lived in Dallas, and he got infected, as an adult, and he got mad about it. Real, real mad. And you can go back and research either Dateline or 2020. It's one of those 1 hour alleged documentary shows. Um, he tried to and successfully passed it on to several women, of which I know for sure that 2 are dead. Yeah, on purpose. So, well, here's the whole thing. If you don't know, how are you going to tell him? He did. I told you this after your question. So my whole thing is that I think it should be one assault with intent to kill at the minimum as far as a charge. And if that person does die, I certainly think it should be murder if you knew what was going on. So here's this map. Okay, this map has the rates of HIV infection in the metropolitan statistical area of residents in 2010. So that's 16 years old. So this map's going to have changed by then. All right. What does this map show? Yeah. What? That's New York City? Yeah, way up there. There's New York. New York. Here's Orlando. There's Miami. There's San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Las Vegas. And these are by percentages of 100,000 people. If it's 26% of 100,000 people, almost a 50% for 100,000 people. Puerto Rico is an American territory. Yeah. I think Hawaii. Let me look closer. Well, there's the other thing. It's per capita of 100,000. So, but as you can see, where diverse lifestyles are more prevalent, you can see how that works. All right. So if you're going to Louisiana and going to New Orleans, you can see New Orleans has got quite a bit going on. That's Memphis, Little Rock, Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Brownsville, the border. That's New Orleans. And I guess that's Alabama, must be Biloxi. And then I am not sure what this one is in between. Looking at South Carolina, North Carolina. Yeah. So it gives you an idea. You're going to go to New Orleans and say, hey, that guy's pretty cute. I'd say go home. So it's transmitted by exposure of infected blood or other bodily fluids or by intimate sexual contact. It can survive in dry blood in ideal conditions up to 5 or 6 days. Ideal conditions. But those conditions are not going to be ideal for very long. It says it can, but it usually dies a whole lot quicker than what the hepatitis B virus will. Okay? That's why it's so important. We have that closet, that cupboard full of gloves. Now, I know that you see me and you say, well, you don't use gloves. Oh, but do I ever touch the patient? So if we'll say that this is the deal, um, um, and so I've got somebody comes over and they got a cut on their arm, and I will tell them, give me, so it's on their right arm, give me your left hand. Give me your, there. Put that over the cut. They're putting it on. And then you can tie that up. Now, if you've got a cut that's so bad that you actually need to clean it and take care of it, put your gloves on. Now, I put the gauze on. Now I'm telling them to hold it. Probably got a little blood on here, right? You've got to be careful about what you touch. All right. So you're bleeding. I look at it. I see the blood. I see I got it. I've got blood on my stuff, on my glove. I pull out peroxide. Open it up. Pour it on there. Put that down. I pick up uh, some gauze. We cover it up. I pick up Powerflex and wrap the gauze on. Tear it off and say, all right, go play. What do I need to throw out? All of what? I only use half a roll of Powerflex. Yeah, the blood's probably in the core. Yeah. I need to throw out the top of that, what you call it? The lid to the, I had opened up the, after where I touched it, I'd opened up the peroxide. I touched the peroxide bottle. Throw it all out. Then I need to go and get that done, get a new glove, put it on, and wipe up whatever surface any of that stuff was sitting on. Pull it off, throw that out. Now I'm done. Meanwhile, they've already played 4 plays, and we've not watched any of it. But you've got to clean up after yourself to clean your contamination site. Do you need to put that blood in a biohazard bag? You say yes. You say no. Which one is it? How much blood was there? You need about a quart of blood in order for it to have to go into OSHA requirements. We don't see a quart of blood in here all year. Yeah. And then once you're seeing that much kind of blood, you've got to go in and have biohazard people pick it up. They have to take it to incinerators. There's a lot of stuff. But when you get 10 drops of blood on the floor in here in a semester, all right. Now I want you to pay attention to this stuff because here's your other deal. Symptoms: fatigue, weight loss, muscle or joint pain, painful or swollen glands, night sweats, and fever. All right, which ones are the same? Fever, fatigue, right? All right. You're not nauseous on this one, and you were on the other one. The other one, you're jaundiced. This one, you're not. This has night sweats. The other one didn't. So you need to know each separate set. Okay? So let's prevent. All right? Now, it's not on here, but we've talked about this, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Prevention as far as safe sex is of major importance. The only way the only way you don't get fat on Oreo cookies is if you don't eat Oreo cookies. Got me? I'm not saying you're fat. I'm just saying the only way that you don't get fat on Bluebell ice cream if you don't eat Bluebell ice cream. That's right. Safe sex is of major importance. Okay? Avoid contact with body fluids. Don't go walking around and poking in somebody's blood and saying, "Oh, I wonder what type that is." Exactly. So don't share needles. I pray to the Lord above that none of you will ever need a needle except for when you're at the doctor's office. But time out. Hold on. Not just steroids. What else could there be? Well, of course. No. Diabetic. Okay, so that's what they tell you. So you say you have to do it in the nurse's office because everywhere outside of the nurse's office, you cannot penetrate your skin with a diabetic needle. You have to. If you're diabetic, you're familiar with needles. All right. Don't share needles. Don't say, "Hey, I'm diabetic too, and I forgot my insulin shot. Can I borrow yours?" No. Um, well, it has nothing to do with cartilage. It's when you get your ears pierced. If you insist that you see a brand new piercing needle come out of whatever sterile it is, I pierced that great big biker that's been in prison and rough and tough, been around this world a few times. Well, maybe he's got a couple of things. You don't want his blood on that piercing when you get your ear pierced. So, yes, that same with tattoos. Decide to get a tattoo that needle's pushing ink through your skin. Make sure, absolutely make sure that they are following what is regulated. Avoid drugs that impair judgment. Now, what drugs impair judgment? Including alcohol. You are stuck on heroin. You never, I promise you that if you've never seen the show, what is that? No, Intervention. Watch it and watch it, especially when there's somebody who's hooked on heroin. Opiates make you sick. When you are addicted to an opiate and it drops out of your system, you physically get sick. You throw up, you sweat, you are until you get an opiate. And this happens every 8 hours. Huh? You can probably. Don't have sex with people you know who are HIV positive. Okay? Get regularly. If you are active, be tested regularly. All right? Every 3 months. So, practice good hygiene before and after sex. I don't think we're done with that, but we will talk about the athletes in HIV and probably talk about a little of HPV. All right? If you don't know what that is, Google. Yes, HPV